I mean, predicting the future is always a tricky thing to do, but I don't think I see anything that's revolutionary from where we are today. So I think the way HR is organised and structured will be a development from where we are now, as opposed to some kind of great revolutionary change. I think technology will increasingly play a significant role in HR and has the potentiality to transform a lot of what HR does and how it does it. And of course technology is one of the things that's very hard to kind of predict where it will go, but you can already see the impact it's having on organisations, and I think that's only going to continue. I think that's an interesting question, and I think it's one of the challenges for the HR function. I'm always intrigued when you meet people who are doing HR degrees as to what does a 17, 18-year-old think HR is, that they would make a career choice at that age to go into it. And having met some of those people over the years, I'm not entirely sure they're doing it for the right possible reason. There was a really interesting survey done by the Society of Human Resource Management in America in about 2006, when I asked HR professionals in America what training was important to them and what training would be relevant to their career and personal development. And what came back was lots of stuff around the importance of employment law and interpersonal skills and HR technical knowledge. Sadly, strategic management, change management and business acumen all scored single-digit numbers. So a hypothesis might be actually the people who go into HR in many ways are the wrong people. And that what we really need to do is to attract people into the HR function who are more interested in the business as a commercial entity than necessarily HR technical expertise. And that would lead me to say we should be casting the net as widely as we possibly can in terms of getting people into the function, but also getting people who don't necessarily come at it from a kind of HR technical background, but come more from a business perspective. Well, I think poor old Dave Wilbris kind of wonders sometimes whether he wished he'd never written that book. I mean, I don't think he put the model up. I'm not sure he ever even called it a model. I think he put up a way of describing what HR could do and how it could do it, which I don't think he's also responsible for the way that some people have implemented it. I mean, changing someone's job title from HR officer to business partner doesn't actually make any meaningful change. So if you look at the architecture that he kind of described, which is you have, you know, some kind of shared services, HR back office, processing unit, HR people in business units, centres of expertise. I think that high level architecture is going to remain. The issue is how you implement it in your organisation and how the various components interact with each other to work out who does what and how it gets done. In my history of HR people aren't very good at admin. So anything that's got a distributed administrative system doesn't work in HR, and it's inefficient and doesn't provide great service. That's why shared services, in my view, is a good development and was a good development, because it allowed you to do things more efficiently but also provide a better level of service, get your arms around it, measure it. And I think there are areas where you need deep technical expertise, but you don't need lots of those people, and you need HR people close to the business. So I think that general architecture will remain. And it's interesting that, you know, since that book came out, which I think must have been about 96, 97 or something, I haven't seen much in terms of people moving that on anyway. I think there are lots of examples, sadly, and there's lots of kind of research that the track record in HR transformations and change programs is not great. There are a few organisations now on their second and third HR change or transformation director. And there's independent research, you know, nothing to do with PWC, about the success and failure of HR transformations, which doesn't make great reading. I think partly that's because actually it's quite complicated. I think a lot of HR processes and the way HR works in organisations is actually more complicated than people think, and therefore changing it is also quite complex. I think people are also slightly over ambitious probably don't ask for sufficient budget, make lots of compromises, and maybe the way they do it doesn't particularly work. When you wander around, there are lots of examples of people who have had these projects, spent a lot of money and not really achieved very much, and there's a big danger in that for the function, which is that people actually don't think it can change itself, or actually it struggles to make itself meaningful and relevant. And of course that's a dangerous place to be. I think you have to be very clear about what you're trying to achieve. You have to be very realistic about what you can do in the time scale with the resources that you have. And I think you need to increasingly come at it from the customer's perspective. A lot of what HR does is a kind of one-size-fits-all, take it or leave it, we know what's better for you kind of attitude. In a world that's increasingly individualised and atomised. And there was that interesting book that came out, you know, about basically you need to look at the organisation as a collection of individuals and tailor everything to the individual, and I think there's something in that. I think for HR often we do this for everybody, even although not everybody wants it, not everybody values it, not everybody's appropriate for them. So changing that and bringing the customer into it and delivering things in a customer-centric way, I think that would be a big step forward. Professional services firms like PWC are very different to corporate world. I mean, that's not good or bad, it's just that they're different. But they suit people who are kind of self-starting, self-organised, don't necessarily need a lot of direction. It's interesting, but actually anything to do with the client does take precedence, so people talk about that, but actually that is true. So anything internal gets dropped if a client thing comes in. It's great being able to see lots of different organisations and HR functions, initiatives, inevitably some good, some bad. I mean, that's just what you would expect. But also trying to help people and see improvements happen and see change happen is actually quite rewarding. We're doing a lot of work in talent management in the moment, and I think there's a couple of questions that HR people need to be able to answer, and organisations need to be able to answer. One is, why would any individual want to join your organisation? And once they're in your company, why should they stay? And I don't think enough people know the answer to those questions. Not in any great systematic, cohesive way. And these days, it's with the younger generation coming through, it's a lot more than just money.